Old India, as it has often been called, has a rich history that dates back thousands of years. Many Hindu temples, both ancient and new, are seen throughout the country. Dynasties have come and gone over the centuries. Nearly 80% of the people of India are Hindu. Islam has a growing presence in India, with around 14.2% of the population being Muslim. Islam first came to the western coast of India with Arab traders as early as the 7th century AD, and eventually spread from the north to the Malabar coast and then across India. 2.3% of India is Christian, having deep roots to early Christianity. In the 1st century, many Jews that had converted to Christianity, as well as other converts, escaped the persecution of Rome by following the trade routes all the way to India. These were known as the Syrian Christians. The Apostle Thomas landed on the coast of Kerala, India in 52 AD. His converts became known as St. Thomas Christians. Both groups followed the simple faith of the early apostles, and most kept the seventh-day Sabbath. The New World Encyclopedia states, their tradition goes back to the beginnings of first-century Christian thought and the 7 churches that are believed to have been established by St. Thomas the Apostle. The Nazarene preserved the original rituals of the early Jewish Christians, such as covering their heads while in worship and holding their ritual service on Saturdays in the tradition of the Jewish Sabbath. These early Christian Jews believed in Jesus as the Christ, but followed Jewish traditions and called themselves Nazareans or Nazrani, meaning Jews who followed the Nazarene Messiah. On July 8, 1497, Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese explorer, was commissioned by King Manuel I to lead a fleet of 4 ships with a crew of 170 men from Lisbon, Portugal to India on a conquest for Portugal and the Catholic Church. The Hindus in Calicut initially welcomed the arrival of da Gama and his sailors, but tensions quickly flared up after da Gama offered their ruler a collection of relatively cheap goods as arrival gifts. They also fell victim to the wiles of wealthy Arabian merchants who influenced some of the local Muslims to attack these Portuguese explorers. Da Gama returned to Portugal, vowing revenge and to return to save India from these pagans for the Pope. A few years later, in February 1502, Vasco da Gama was in charge of another Indian expedition, but this time with an armada. On his ships, he took with him military troops and Roman Catholic priests who would serve as spiritual and tactical advisors. As the armada approached the shores of India, it encountered a ship heavily laden with Muslim pilgrims returning from Mecca. Da Gama ordered an attack and watched while these ships went up in flames. Thus, he announced his return to India. As da Gama and his accompanying priests made themselves known among the inhabitants along the Malabar coast of India, they were very surprised to encounter Christians living in this heathen land among the Hindus and Muslims. One must remember that Thomas and Syrian Christians looked to the Syrian Bible as their guide of faith. So when they first met these Portuguese Catholics, they were a bit surprised, as was recorded by the well-known historian Charles Gibbons. The title of Mother of God was offensive to their ears, and they measured with scrupulous avarice the honors of the Virgin Mary, whom the superstitions of the Latins had almost exalted to the rank of a goddess. When her image was first presented to the disciples of St. Thomas, they indignantly exclaimed, "We are Christians, not idolaters."
This is the famous St. Thomas Mount. They say that St. Thomas was murdered here or martyred here in 72 AD by a Hindu fundamentalist. It's really hard to know what to believe when it comes to the stories about Thomas, St. Thomas or the Apostle Thomas, because revisionists have rewritten history so much. So I'd like to show you just a few examples of what I'm talking about. First of all, I can guarantee that the Apostle Thomas never came from Rome. He most likely came from Antioch in Syria to India when he came here to evangelize and share the gospel. And secondly, I'm positive that the Apostle Luke never painted this picture in 50 AD because the adoration of the worship of Mary never became dogma in the Catholic Church till 1854 under Pope Pius IX. So this would have been a foreign concept to the early apostles and any of their followers. And the whole idea of relics and sacred bones and different things like that are all part of the revisionist theology of Catholicism to try to help people or to make people think that all of these saints were somehow connected to the Catholic Church and were all part of the interests of the Church of Rome and propagating its authority and power as being the only and one true church.
The historian Claudius Buchanan tells about the contact of the Portuguese Catholic priests with these native Thomas and Syrian Christians of India. These churches, said the Portuguese, belong to the Pope. Who is the Pope, said the natives. We never heard of him. We, they said, are of the true faith, whatever you of the West may be, for we came from the place where the followers of Christ were first called Christians, meaning Antioch. Because these natives would not bow to the supremacy of the Pope and the dominance of the Catholic Church, they soon found themselves in the midst of the Portuguese Inquisition. They were told, convert or die. Soon, the simple church of the Thomas and Syrian Christians was dominated by the Catholics. It was not till the middle of the 17th century that there was an uprising against the Jesuit priests for their oppression of the Syrian and Thomas Christian churches. A significant turn of events took place in Manticherry, near Cochin, on the Malabar coast, when the Thomas and Syrian Christians tied themselves to a large cross and swore an oath to separate themselves from the Catholic Church. Unfortunately, the damage was done through re-education and coercion. Their theology and worship styles were adopted from Catholicism, which is still seen today throughout their churches. They forsook the seventh-day Sabbath of their ancestors and other biblical teaching of the primitive church. Today, the most famous places in India have been historically revised to make it appear that they are part of Catholic history. Adventists first entered North India in the 1890s. L.J. Burgess and his wife Georgia started an outreach for women. This picture from 1898 shows some of the first Adventist pioneers to India. At first, the work was slow in a country dominated by Hindus and Muslims. In 1897, D.A. Robinson started the first Adventist school for girls. He went on to become the director of the Indian mission. Unfortunately, he succumbed to smallpox and passed away in the year 1900. The leadership in India fell on the young W.A. Spicer, who became the head of the Indian mission and the editor of the Oriental Watchman, the first Adventist paper published in India. At the 1901 General Conference session, he was elected to the position of Secretary for the Foreign Mission Board in America. Spicer Adventist University in Pune, India, still bears his name today.
The first Adventist church in southern India is located in Paraskapuram. We took a road trip from Chennai to visit this area and to see some new developments for Lehman Ministries in this historic region. Early in the morning, we made our way along a new toll highway. Finally, India has some decent highways. Along the way, we stopped to see the famous Ranganatha Swami Temple complex located on the island of Soranganam, which is positioned in the middle of two rivers. This is considered to be the largest functioning Hindu temple in the world, as it covers an area of about 6,790,000 square feet. People come here by the thousands to pay homage to the idol of the god Vishnu that is set in the middle of this stone temple. Also in this area of Tamil Nadu, there are the ruins of the palace and temples of the Chola Dynasty, which is one of the longest ruling dynasties in the history of southern India. At one time it controlled the whole southern tip of India, and its influence was reached as far away as Malaysia. These ruins date back to the 11th and 12th centuries, being built by the famous Raja Chola. We drove another 6 hours to get to Paranthapuram, which is near the tip of South India. It was here that the very first Adventist church was built in southern India. We met with Pastor Jones, now retired, but used to be the pastor of this historic church. He has studied the history of this Adventist church, so we asked him to share about how Adventists first came to South India.
This is the first Seventh-day Adventist church in South India Union. In the year 1907, Elder James, Elder Shaw and Elder Enoch came to Prakasapuram and stayed here for about a month. Then they all went back. Then in 1908, Elder James, along with his wife and children, came and settled here, started his work. First work they started was among the sick people. It's a kind of medical missionary. Then they had also been giving Bible studies to the people. The first baptism took place in the year 1910. The first baptism consisted of about 25 people. That's how the first church in South India Union started here in Prakasapuram.
Just down the street from the Adventist church is the Indian Church of Only Savior, which also keeps the seventh-day Sabbath. It's interesting to note that back in 1854, the founder of this church discovered the Sabbath truth from a study of the Bible. It was estimated that in the year 1900, around 500 to 1,000 Tamil Sabbath keepers were in this area of India. It was in search of these Sabbath keepers that drew early Adventist missionaries Elder Judson James, accompanied by 2 of his friends, to this area. A more recent historical development was the donation of these buildings and land to Lehman Ministries. In front is an active church, and the back is a completely functioning community center to which we are going to add an orphanage. Lehman Ministries has been talking about starting an orphanage in India for years. There's a real need for that here. And after the success that we've had in the country of Lithuania with helping the government orphanages there, we thought the timing is right. And just recently, this facility here became available for Lehman Ministries to start a really nice orphanage out in the country. And so we're hoping next year, this time when we do a report about our project here in India, that we'll be able to bring you here and show you the young children that will be benefited by being involved with an orphanage ran by Lehman Ministries.
I'm Moses Daniel. I'm a layman. I'm taking care of this church. We have 5 families coming to this church, and this is very nice to have a community center here. We have lot of Hindus and lot of Roman Catholics, and this church serves them by giving them the real truth. This is the building which is meant for our community services, and we do some technical we give some technical practices, trainings like computer services, basic computer learning, computer skills, and spoken English, soft skills like spoken English. And this is the computer center actually. Okay, we have 7 computers. So far we have finished 3 batches of students. Our students are from this local area, and they come here. They not only get the education, but we also give them our books, our literature, gospel books, and we give them, we tell Jesus' love to them, and they get not only the training, they are trained to heaven. The room attached to this is the community center, which we give sewing training. This we especially give training for ladies. We bring the unemployed ladies and we give them sewing training. We have finished 3 batches, and lot of ladies from this area, both married and unmarried, they come and get the training, and they are employed. They get skills in sewing, and they get some money. And we can we want orphanage to be started with this building, which is enough. We have enough of bathrooms, and we have enough of sanitary facilities, and to begin with, we can use this building for the boys' dorm. Okay. I myself have studied in orphanage for about 15 years, and after that, after having my education through an orphanage, through the help of an orphanage, I have run an orphanage for 12 years. We have produced a lot of students for this country. They are working in various capacities, and they still have connection with me, and I love them, and they love me still. Okay, we have to see the kitchen. We have already built a kitchen, keeping in mind to have children or men for the training. So this is the kitchen. We have all facilities like water connection and drainage system. Everything is okay. The whole land and the whole building has been made only for Lehman Ministries. This building and the land can be used for the Lehman Ministry.
Lehman Ministries sponsors 24 Bible workers along with 3 team leaders. These faithful Bible workers go door to door, working areas of the city, giving Bible studies. They have a systematic way of working. As they approach the door, they mention our television programs, as many of the people are familiar with them. This often opens the door. Then they share books and literature, which we print as well. Eventually, they establish group Bible studies, which leads to evangelistic series, followed by baptisms and the establishment of a small church. I'd like to show you some examples of our new church plants. Right now we're heading over to a church. It's called Nimali Cherry. It's a church that has been established by Lehman Ministries Bible workers. And Pastor, did you say that the local people help get the money together to help buy that church, to build the church? Or is it a rented place?
It's a rented place.
Rented place.
It's a rented place.
Yeah, so that's where we're headed now. We're all packed in this car in a lot of traffic right now. We first made a quick stop to see one of our new church plants that's on the roof of a house. These church plants eventually end up having their own church buildings as the congregation grows.
ஜீவாத்மாவானார் என்று எழுதியிருக்கிறது. பிந்தின ஆதாம் உயிர்ப்பிக்கிற ஆவியானவர். நம்ம தமிழ் பைபிள்ல ஒரு சின்ன பிந்தின ஆதாம் இருக்குல்ல.
Pastor Johnson wanted to show us one of the churches where the Bible workers did the groundwork, and now they're renting a building here. How long ago did they establish this church here?
7 months back,
So
2000.
this is real recent here.
Yes.
And they're meeting in someone's home, or is it a rented?
It's a rented place.
The results of our Bible workers.
And Lehman India, our director. For this India, our state of Tamil Nadu, for this Lehman Church, may God bless you. I'd like to
Here is still another church plant in another rented building. One of our Bible workers shares a testimony with the believers here. On this trip to India, I'm trying to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing with the Bible workers. Bible workers go into an area, sometimes work it for 5 or 6 months, develop a core of people who are interested in studying the Bible, and then we establish a church. This morning we saw one church that was established that was meeting actually in a house. We're actually renting the house. And then there's different developments that are taking place with the different church groups. Some of them are well-established churches where we bought property, built the church. Sometimes we do this in connection with the local union or the conference here, sometimes with other organizations that help us with the church building process. But nevertheless, over the years of being here for 21 years now, we've established a lot of churches in the Chennai area. While we were here on this trip, we found out that there was going to be 11 people baptized, again as the result of our Bible workers. We never rush people into this decision, as we want to see true conversions. The Bible workers have built close relationships with these people over the last several months. Each has a story to tell. Since working in India since 1993, by God's grace, we have seen thousands of baptisms.
"21 years of journey, Lehman Ministry in India." I couldn't believe that. We just seems to be met, but 21 years passed. And we met in the city of Porur in Chennai, India. We were holding evangelistic meeting. Gary Gibbs and you came and to video record that one. Then after that, I couldn't see you. 99, Doug Batchelor came, held a big evangelistic meeting, and I was a coordinator, one of the coordinators, and handling all the finance section of that. By God's grace, when I saw the Doug Batchelor meeting, and I heard about he was doing TV, radio, and all publishing, all that. Then I told in our church that we need a TV program in our church. Then next year, Acts 2000, Elder Mark Finlay came, and we hired a big hall, Kamarajar Hall in the city of Chennai. It is a big hall. Then I thought that we need a TV program in India. As my church and myself, we're all praying that by God's grace that I was able to meet you. First we met in Pastor Shadra's home. Then we met in one of our lay member house, and we were talking about how to start a TV program. Lehman Ministry is a pioneering for TV evangelism in India, and Bible worker, then publishing. We did a role model. Still, there are a number of ministries following our method. It is because we have a system to follow in India.
Lehman Ministries owns and operates a television studio in India where we produce our own television programs that are aired on a number of different cable and international networks. The upper floor of our studio is for book storage and is used for community outreach. We have a church behind our studio that is used as a training center for laymen and has services every Sabbath. Our editors work at producing a variety of TV programs. We have people come into our studio to record sermon presentations and sometimes even special musical pieces. We produce programs in Telugu, Tamil, and English languages. Christo Samuel directs our studio operations. Here are just a couple samples of some of our programs.
1 John 3:1 Behold what manner of love the Father had bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. Therefore the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not. May we realize the importance of the love God has given us and cherish every moment of it.
தீர்க்க தரிசனங்கள் வேதாகமத்தில் பழைய ஏற்பாட்டிலோ புதிய ஏற்பாட்டிலோ தீர்க்க தரிசனங்கள் குறுகிய கால அளவுடையவைகள். ஒருவேளை ஒரு தீர்க்கதரிசி சொன்ன உடனே
Lehman Ministries started working in India in 1993. God has blessed in so many ways. Now, after 23 years of work, a historical legacy continues to be established. Over the years, we have printed thousands of books, tracts, and Bible studies. TV programs go around the world. Bible workers touch people's lives in a very personal way. Thousands have been baptized. And if it were not for people like you who support projects like this, these blessings would not have happened. Next, we plan to reprint books like The Great Controversy and The Desire of Ages. We will be adding more networks to air our television programs, as well as getting our orphanage up and operating. Thank you for your support.